2, 1. All right, we are live.
Amazing. Hi, everybody. It is nice to have you today. Allie Wyatt here, co-founder and CEO of Female Founder Collective, the North and the 10th House, which is our private membership community. Before I get into our amazing guest today, which is Kathy Kuo, I wanted to talk quickly about our home cohort that we have, which is going to be closing on the 27th. So you have a little bit more time, a week exactly, right? It's May 20th. So definitely get in there if you've been contemplating it or if you know a friend. As a reminder of what it is, it's a private membership community where we're sharing resources, where we're sharing access to incredible individuals like Kathy, and where we are helping each other navigate through the incredible journey that is entrepreneurship and success. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Kathy because she has an amazing career behind her, but she is the founder and CEO of Kathy Kuo Home, an award-winning interior designer, a recognized TV personality, an activist for female founders, thank you, and a loving mother of two. With a mission that everyone should be able to love where they live and a deep expertise in design, manufacturing, and global distribution, Kathy founded KKH in 2012 as an e-commerce retail destination, in addition to a robust menu of interior design services, a dedicated trade program, and an interior design studio in Manhattan's Tribeca neighborhood, which is actually where I moved from. So I absolutely love Tribeca. I was just saying to Kathy before you all jumped on how envious I was of her New York City apartment backdrop, which was like my dream state of where to live, which is where I was up until 2020. But Kathy has also joined the North, so you can book a one-on-one call with her. We'll actually share the link for that if you want to dive deeper. But without further ado, I'm going to jump into my questions because I have a lot of them for you. And that's that you started Kathy Kuo Home while pregnant and now lead as a mother of two. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to launch KKH and then what structures or boundaries have been essential to protect your time and avoid burnout?
Great. Such a good question. And thank you for having me on. I feel like I've been so blessed with so many other great sort of female mentors, and it feels appropriate to just give back here. So thank you for having me on. So the story is that, I grew up where my mom actually worked a lot, and she's absolutely brilliant. I credit so much of like this my absolute sort of like need for like just not to fall into conventions and stuff, but like I'll call the warrior status that she got from her grandmother was passed on to me. But she worked a lot, right? So she was never around, and I always thought it's really important that I am around for my children when whatever it is that I do. And I think from a very early on, I was like, how do I work from home? Like literally, like I was pioneering work from home before work from home was a thing. And so I have so many memories of wearing my daughter, in her baby Bjorn and like eating and getting ketchup on her and like working on my computer and building this business. By the way, are we getting a little bit of audio feedback? Is that me or? You're okay? You don't hear it?
I feel like there's outside my house a weird buzzy sound, but I'm not getting audio feedback on my end.
Perfect. So always just felt like, she was part of the origin story of KKH. When I had a third bedroom out of my apartment, not this one, but a different one, she was always right there. And I remember the first interviews, the women would walk through. We had our first customer service rep. Her name is Trisha. We called her Tree, like as in the tree. Tree walked through, and I asked her to take her shoes off, and she walked by my nanny, and that was kind of how it started. Like she was working out of my bedroom of my apartment. And so as far as boundaries go, I feel like I don't have any. I pretty much am who I am. Like sometimes it's been a really, really tough morning, and unfortunately, like I'm gonna have to do something with my nanny, and I can't address this, and everyone's been really understanding, and that's still part of the way it is.
I like that though. I like that you put it out there. You're like, I don't have any. That's it's great to admit that though. I think that's the reality sometimes is that the lines are blurred between everything, and that's okay. in this day and age. And I think it comes to be expected that you're going to bring your whole person. In terms of when you started KKH back in 2012, so before the direct-to-consumer boom and tools like Shopify were really mainstream, what were the scrappy things you did in the early days to build trust and drive sales? And what would you do differently if you launched in 2025?
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. First of all, like if you had asked me this question 6 months ago, this would be a very different answer, right? By the way,
Right? Like everything is so different and moving so quickly.
It's moving so quickly. So back then, we had no money, and so it was like, we had no money for paid marketing. We had to do everything organically. So we literally, by the way, this was around like when Instagram had just launched, and so we like doubled down on Instagram. We worked Pinterest. I feel like there was another platform. I can't remember what it is now, but it's no longer. But like that Polyvore, Polyvore.
Polyvore, yes.
Do you remember Polyvore?
Oh, yeah.
That was like the gift that kept on giving.
I met the founder, and I was like, I met the founder of Polyvore.
Such a big deal. Such a big deal.
Yeah, it was a really big deal.
Yeah. So like leaned into all these free social tools, wrote a lot of content. We have a blog called The Quotes, which is like my last name. And we still have the blog today, but like this was, we had to basically do everything by hand, I took customer service calls. I uploaded every single product on my own. I mean, pretty much everything you can think of, right? Because this was before Shopify. This was before then. I think really truthfully,
and now, how much sleep were you getting? I mean, that's the big question, because I think so often, I think a lot of times founders are like, I'm doing so much and I'm working so many hours. And I think it's worth noting that in the beginning, that's just kind of how it goes.
Kind of. And I think also, like, let's not forget, my daughter was 3 months old, and like I basically was sleeping anyways. And I think I just spent an inordinate amount of time, like, just, by the way, I didn't manage social media. Like, very early on, my creative person who actually did my site and also like half wrote the blog with me, like, he kind of had like, he also did social media with me. So she was like a third employee. But in the early days, like, I think what's really interesting is I look back, I'm like, so we have about 150 employees today. I never considered what scale would look like and how to get there. Like, I literally was just like, what is the next incremental tiny thing I need to do? Sure. And so, like, I don't know if I like knew how to time manage, and I wasn't even thinking about that as like a requirement. I was just like, let's just do the next thing that I know how to do. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll ask somebody to get it done. But today it's like, honestly, like, not to sound like completely like, we have fully embraced AI here. I mean, AI is driving all of our technical tools. I think that we would probably build our entire site, using completely open source software. Today, our site is built off of custom software. I would be using AI to onboard products. We use AI for CRM. We use AI for service tools. I mean, it's like,
any favorite tools?
I mean, the very most obvious one is OpenAI's ChatGPT, right? Like, if you get so we're on the Teams tool, and so that links up to our internal database. They also have a Codex program that links up to your GitHub and your Bitbucket if you have an engineering code base. It also links up to Google Drive if you have all of your stuff like held in Google. It'll pull documents, it'll scan your stuff through all of that. So it's very much, and it's collaborative too. So let's say like you want to like share like, a PR brief that you've been working through with ChatGPT with your co-founder or your like one employee or two employees or whatever, you can share the link to the entire chat. You can build on it together. So that's great. It's such a great tool. If you have an engineering team, OpenAI is also really good, but then there's Cursor, then there's Claude. You use each one depending on what you need it for. And I think your engineers kind of know, but like right off the bat, I mean, like if your ChatGPT is unbelievable. For us in creative, we use Midjourney. So we use Midjourney to sort of do a lot of video generation. And then we use it for animation. We will use it to just like create shells, and then we'll apply other things into it. So it's a combination thereof. It's a whole like art and science to prompting,
I
getting.
was gonna say like who are the prompters? Is it just that everybody in your team has gotten really adept at creating prompts in a really
So
effective way?
so it's constantly like tweaking it, it's tweaking your
Yeah.
prompts, but then it's saving your prompts so that you get consistency and sharing with your coworkers what prompts you're using to achieve the same result. So we
Yeah.
always say it's not enough to use AI within your department. Like you have to share out what you're
How
doing,
you're
how
utilizing it.
you're how you're utilizing it so that like there's a pool of shared ways to do it, if that makes sense.
It's so true. Because I think it's all about like my husband will he loves this song app and he'll go in and he'll create the most incredible
Which app? The song app?
yeah, what is it
Is it like
called?
is it like Suno or something?
Yes, yes, yes. He
Suno.
loves this app and he makes a song about everything and it doesn't take him long and there are these brilliant songs, but it's all in the prompting. Like he gives it really unique insights to then create these amazing things. I've tried it and I'm like, wait, mine's not very good. And he's like, well, your prompt sucks. So it really is all about how you're utilizing it and the prompts that you're giving it in order to get the
Yeah.
best.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have
As
to
with
look
most
into
things in
that.
life, by the way, but
Yeah.
can
Have a good plan. Prompt
sure,
it well.
great. So definitely utilizing a lot more AI, open source software. Um, and then, but when we're sort of going back to that time frame, and again, it was a huge market, but how did you test and prove the demand for your product, specifically luxury furniture online, when
Mhm.
it wasn't the norm, right? Like buying an expensive sofa is a difficult thing to do online.
Yeah, I feel like the industry has largely still it's changed dramatically from a access standpoint, but it
Yeah,
still has a shroud of like secrecy and opacity as it relates to pricing and access. So my career, I
my
started
biggest
out,
gripe with this industry is the opacity.
and also like it's not serving anyone. Like to be
Yeah,
clear, like you just want to buy what you want to buy, and like you're like stopping the sale anyway.
yeah,
Um, but I think that like, my background, I came from working in luxury home for a supplier of ours, and they're
yeah,
like to the trade resource. And I realized that you could only shop their products if you were an interior designer. And the problem with that is like, when the economy's good and you have the opportunity to like lean on a few editors to dictate the future trend of where home goes, this is all fine. But now when the economy is not as great and manufacturers are looking for additional distribution outside of just the traditional trade channels, what do you do, right? And so I think like where I came in was in 2000, and actually even earlier than 2012. I saw this like huge opportunity to just like bring all these incredible artisans forward, right? Like they're all these incredible makers that with so much expertise with what they do, like the 12 coats of lacquer that create this like piano finish, like no one knows. Like, what about this other maker here who spends his entire day like weaving these custom, wall macrames? That's amazing. No one knows. So I'm like, how do I bring this forward to the masses? I honestly had no idea that people would want it, but I had an intuition. I was like, people must want this. I love it. Why can't everybody else have it? And so that was like the first thing that I sought out to do, is like, let's get this onto a platform that people can shop. And it was actually met with a ton of resistance up front, right? This was like a very, very old, industry that really protects their sources and how they do what they do and their pricing. And I like saying e-com was like such a bad word in the early days. Like they were like, get out, like you get out. Like I was blocked from showrooms. Like they were like literally like, oh yeah, I can count the amount of times that I mean, I've been said no to hundreds of times. begged for years the same suppliers for them to still be like,
Because of like the trade secrets that could have been revealed
to be
using.
honest with you, I think it's all of the things. I think like they thought I was Chinese and I was here to copy their goods, which I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not Chinese. I think that they also thought that like the e-com was like a wild, wild west where pricing couldn't be managed. And that also could be true too, but that's, that has been managed now. I also think that like they just didn't get it and didn't want to lean in. And so definitely met with so much resistance. But the landscape has largely changed. Like Wayfair kind of like, took it to a whole different, era. And but yeah, I mean, there's still so much pricing opacity and like access issues. But
were there like a specific sales of certain items that really tipped you off that, hey, this is actually really going to work?
I think like initially I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much great home decor and like sculpture and like art.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't like even like, let's talk about sofas and upholsteries and chairs.
Yeah,
And
it was more like accessories that
it
were.
was just like, these are so cool. These like hand painted lacquer chargers from Vietnam, or like these like amazing textiles coming out of Morocco. Like no one could find them. No one could get access to them. And so I don't know. It's just like kind of a gut intuition. I'm like, people must love this. Like they must. Yeah.
And then how long did it take for the sales to start to come in though? Like you get your website up, it's been a long time since 2012. So
yeah. So I always say that like if you launch and like like press doesn't know about it, did you like actually launch? Like, well, then you just launch again.
Yeah.
And so like what does launch mean? Like you have a party? Like what does that actually mean? Right? Like or does it hit the New York Times? So we've launched many times in 2012.
That's such, I've recently come across some entrepreneurs that were like, I launched and then it's like there's nobody writing about it. There's nobody like talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes, I mean, to be clear, like I've been doing this since 2012 and actually a little bit longer prior to that, like, gearing up to it. But like press knew about it in 2012. Like that's when press hit. And like, but like, no, it wasn't like one day you turn it on, all your social profiles are live and like then you have followers. Like that's not how it works. But yeah, it's a long process, but it's a fun one,
And then in terms of revenue streams, you've actually scaled across multiple revenue streams, right? E-com, full service design, and now retail. Can you walk us through how you made the decisions to expand? And then like, were there any specific metrics or benchmarks that you had for yourself to indicate, oh, okay, this is the right time to sort of go into this?
Yeah. The short answer is that there were no hard metrics. It all happened organically. And so we launched as a consumer site. Like we had no idea that a designer would show up. But it only makes sense, right? Like the designers need things and all of a sudden they're like, wait, I don't have to go to, such and such a supplier. I can just go to you directly and shop all the brands under one platform. In 2017 was when we were like, I think we need to hire like a trade salesperson that just manages trade. And when you start to study their buying habits and needs, and by the way, within trade, there's also a very, very different segmentation, right? There's like your classic interior designer that does high-end residential, but then you have your hospitality designer that needs very different things. They need like flow-through cushions, they need like hospitality grade everything. And then you've got your architects, then you've got your developer that like, and builders that buy very differently. And they all kind of require different pricing and shipping and logistics needs. And so once you start to study their buying patterns and what they need, you start to kind of like build a business to service their needs. And so, we have a trade arm. We've got about 25,000 interior designers today that shop with us. And I think one of our largest learnings for interior design really is they really dislike figuring out how to ship things. Like that is something that no one wants. Nobody starts an interior design business and goes, wow, I love logistics, right? They're like, I'm so good at design and I'm really great with client interface. But like when it comes to making sure something goes from point A to point B, not damaged, where a claim is handled, a return is figured out, like the hinges are on correctly and placed where they need it. That's like what they need. And so this is what we work really, really hard to like service them in. We acquired a third-party logistics company in 2023 just to support the interior design
Smart.
consolidation. Nowhere in this world do you say, I need to hold 50 items in one warehouse until my floors are finished. Only interior designers do this. Nobody else. Nobody else says like, I'm going to buy all these places,
the
but
hard way.
you have it. I don't have a garage. I can't
Like a warehouse? Why?
Yeah, seriously. It's like no one thinks about these things. So they're like they're receiving things piecemeal and like they're like struggling to like, see it all come together. This is why we do the one install for all of our interior design clients and our interior designers that shop our platform too. So as far as the design services side goes, that was always kind of organic as well. People were like, Kathy, we love your apartment. Kathy, we love your design aesthetic. Can you help design my home? And like, sure enough, this was also in 2017. So that's about, that's an interesting part of our business. That's a very, very different, a completely different business as well, run like a traditional design studio. And then the Tribeca showroom was also just, it was, we launched our custom upholstery program. I think seating is one of those things, if you were to ever have a use case for why you would open a store, is to sit on sofas. And so that's what we opened the store for, so you can come and sit on a sofa. That was like the biggest pushback we would get on buying specifically upholstery online. And so that's literally why we did that.
But this begs the question, like, how on earth do you manage all of these very different businesses, right? Because they're totally different. Like direct to consumer is a very different business than to the trade, than to doing interior design services.
Yeah. I guess you could say I'm slightly crazy. Well, we have a really, really good executive team. So we have someone who oversees the design services side of the house, as well as trade. The e-com business is an entirely digital business. It's entirely metrics oriented, right? It's like sessions times conversion equals revenue, where the drop offs, you're studying your funnel. Like it's very formulaic, if you will. But you've got to get it right. And so it's not like, I wouldn't recommend anybody do 4 lines of business up front. I would recommend doing one well. And when you have the opportunity, I will say this, like in looking back, what I should have done is I should have had a P&L, which is a profit and loss statement. Sorry, I don't know like if the audience like knows these terms. So I'm just gonna
always explain when you're doing abbreviations on.
Perfect. I think it's really important to create like a P&L by line item, by channel of business. So you're like, what is the marketing cost associated for the store versus the consumer business versus so on and so forth? Because I think it makes it, the minute your P&L looks really, really strong and you're really, really happy with each line of business is when you're like, maybe I can double down and scale something else. And, or I know how to get this flywheel working. So maybe that would be like a good thing to look at, is to bifurcate your businesses and be clear about like what your KPIs are there.
And to that point, you've talked about farming out the things you're not good at, which by the way, I think that's the first thing founders should do. Can you talk about what those first things were for you and how you went about doing that? Like, when did you hire your first hires and how did you think about that?
Okay, so this is actually something that I took from Jack Daly, and so he's like a expert in sales and driving and leading sales teams and organizations. So he basically said, you create 2 columns. In one column, you write HPA, which is your highest payout activities. And then you write them all down. And then everything else you just leave in the other column. So just write down all the things you do. And when you look at what's not in your highest payout activities, that's when you start to say, how can I farm these things out? And so for me today, the highest payout activities are things that nobody else on my team can do, which are related to brand, related to doing things like this with you, Allie, related to my brand, related to speaking and hosting and things like that, creating content. This is hard for anybody else on my team to do. And, in the past, I was in every single aspect of our business. I mean, still very much am, but just to a lesser degree because I'm still the CEO. I would say in the very, very early days, maybe the best way to think about this is like, what is energetically super draining to you? And write that out, because I think in the early days, almost everything you do is a very, very high payout activity, right? Because you
Yeah.
have to do it all. But what is really energetically draining and unnecessarily difficult for you to do? And what comes to you really easily? And I think that maybe that's kind of the orientation I would start with first. For us, it was obviously like just product onboarding. That was just staring at a spreadsheet with gajillions of lines of data that I was not interested in doing.
Right.
So that was the first one I farmed out, in 2012.
And did you what is the type of person that you brought on to help with that? Because I think, like you said, a lot of people in the home industry, you are creative by nature, and yet you're in a very logistical and
Yeah,
data oriented industry to some degree.
totally. So back then, the way to scale was to have more product, right? Like in 2012, like
Yeah.
I just needed more products on site. And doing it required somebody who deeply cared about product. Like they were gonna like
Yeah.
write the right colors, like that it was not just brown, it was chocolate, right? Like that they would like say the right things. But also somebody who kind of had like different skill sets than me, right? So this woman that we had hired, she was incredibly, incredibly detail oriented. Like she loved just finding errors, like a rounding error on the spreadsheet she could pick out. And this to me was like
Something
such
for everyone, right?
like that.
I said there's something for everybody.
There's something for everyone. And I would say even our new head of ops now, I mean, he's not new, he's been
Yeah.
like a couple of years now. I mean, he literally like just obsesses over the details. I sleep so much better at night because I know he's just going to go in there and dig and dig and dig and
Yeah.
figure out every last detail and streamline it so that I don't have to. But I think like that sort of level of energy was what I kind of needed with my first
Yeah.
hire. She just had like an insane amount of love for all the things we didn't like. Like I was like, this is so energetically draining, and those things energized her. So it was kind
Yeah.
of a match made in heaven. Yeah.
And I want to talk about the logistics piece again, because I know you said you acquired a business that helps with that on behalf of designers, but what are some of the partnerships or tactical things you did to help on logistics, given it's such an integral part of the overall business?
Got it. So in our world, we live and die by our suppliers, of course. And so today we've got 600 of them. I think let's just take two to start. Let's just say we have, one vendor and like you're
Yeah.
talking to them every day. But let's say you get 2 to 5 vendors. I think
Yeah.
the first thing you need to do is like establish like what does good look like? Like what's your scorecard, what's the benchmark for, I don't know, anything that's relevant to your business. So for us, it would be like, how accurate is your inventory? Or how quick do you respond on order acknowledgments? Or do you have accurate information that you're handing off? Whatever those things may be, define them early and then create a scorecard and share it out. So we could be like, hey, Allie, we've driven X in volume, last month. It's so exciting, but it seems like we've got a packaging issue, or we have, a consistent hinge issue that we're seeing. Reporting feedback, to your suppliers frequently, but having like sort of a shared metric that you both buy into, being like, we both agree to like, all emails have to be answered within X amount of time. All orders need to be acknowledged between an X amount of time. Now, today we have EDI and that's all for everything that's electronic delivery. But like prior to that, we had to have a scorecard. And I think that like establishing that up front would save you so much time to be like, when we do business together, this is what good looks
Yeah.
like. Let's create a contract. You know what I mean? We didn't really do that. We were in the begging days. We were like, we'll just take product. Thank you so much. We'll do whatever you need us to do. If you never respond to our emails, it's okay.
So I also have the question. So we talked about logistics. You have a lot of different customers, right? Like you were saying, you're like, we have designers, we have that are maybe working for higher end clientele. And then we have individuals that want to come to our site and buy new product, developers, architects. When you're thinking about brand identity, and product assortment across all of your different business lines. How do you keep that consistent, or do you try to?
We do try. We have a really clear brand guideline, and so our brand guideline dictates, obviously, font and text and copy and
Yeah.
size and the standard. I'll call it graphic design brand copy, but from a merchandising style guide, we definitely do too. Um, we follow these core tenets of gracious, soulful, enduring, and so it's more holistic. It's sort of like, how do we bless you, honey? How do we service you in a gracious, soulful, enduring way? How do we present product to you in a gracious, soulful, enduring way? How does your home feel? It should feel gracious, soulful, and enduring. And so these are sort of like all the things that ladder back into how we service and how we do design. As it relates to specifically product, we err a little bit more traditional than not. Like if our North Star was like, right here, like this is where we are in terms of traditional, but not like, fussy. It's still definitely like classically inspired, lots of natural wovens, petrified woods. We definitely try not to have much of resins and plastics or a lot of metal tones. If there are metal tones, we sort of, there's some sort of warmth layered into it, and the metal is usually sort of like a warm aluminum. We don't have a ton of just like cold metal on our site. This is by design, right? So absolutely, like very methodical with how we choose to assort our merchandise, as well as how do we storytell around that, whether it's our Mountain Elegance lookbook or it's our Andalusia outdoor lookbook. All of those looks we have designed and created from the ground up. And they ladder back up to our gracious, soulful, enduring sort of tenets for how we want you to feel in your space.
And I was talking to Justina Blakeney just about how important it is as a designer and
Mhm.
being in the design world to really have a strong POV on what your design is. But out of curiosity, and for those interior designers that are maybe listening in, when it comes to client preferences,
Mm.
how do you deal with that? If a client is like a client like me, like I am so particular and I'll hire a designer, but then I'll be like, but I want, like, thank you for this mood board, but I'm going to change out 5 of the 10 things to be more like this. So how do you deal with the me's of the world or just client preferences overall?
So that's such a good question. And it's actually like something that we discuss internally all the time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference that you'll get when you work with our firm is that we really are here to solve your needs. Like our goal is just to listen and find the things that make you happy.
Yeah.
I think that like, when people come to us, they're like, we like certain things, we like a certain aesthetic, but then they're like, but I like a lot of color. And we're like, great, like our brand isn't very colorful, but we
Yeah.
will add color where you need, we will add print and pattern where you need.
Yeah.
We work around all sorts of, oh my gosh, my husband bought a massive, lazy boy brown sectional. And can you work around it? 100%. I
Yeah.
can. You know what I mean? Or we can't do this right now because I have really, really dirty children. And so we've got to work around this whole room and just leave that to the side.
Yeah.
Totally. This is about solving life problems, and we're here to basically like figure out that Tetris puzzle with you together. I'm not here to export my design vision onto you. And that's kind of like the most important message to get across is like, we can't, that's not how we're going to win.
I want to ask you this question from Manvi Pandey. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Manvi. But as an early stage home decor business, is it better to focus energy on product diversity or spend the energy figuring out different sales channels and shipping logistics with a limited set of products?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. By the way, I don't know if you're a wholesaler or a retailer, so I'm going to try to answer this both ways. I think the answer is
A
not.
retailer. I think I've
You're a
looked at your
retailer.
business before. I think she
You're a
has.
retailer. Okay, I would say that the answer is neither. I think the first thing you figure out is what's your brand? Like what is the ethos of your brand? Like what do you stand behind? Are you the caraway, pans of whatever decor product you have? Like are you is it a are you parachute homing this? Like is it like a really core set of the best of the classics, or is it sort of like you have a like what is the thing that like people will gravitate towards? Are you the most extraordinary artist that creates these rattan bowls? I don't know what it is, but like you have to tell
What are you
your
known for?
story. Yeah, like what are you known for, and like why do people come to you? And like you have to tell that story over and over and over and over and over and over again first
Yeah.
before you worry about your product expansion and what sales channels you're going to get into. Because like until people know what to come to you for, by the way, they'll actually drive, like your customers will actually dictate your product assortment direction. Like we look at our sales data and we go, it's crystal clear they're leaning into this and not this. And so we product develop
Right.
this. So like figure out who you want to be and where, like how you're going to stand out from the cut above the rest. Like what are you so much better at than everybody else, and why would I come to you for it? Do that first, and then probably get more product in that order.
What about for founders that are offering both products and services?
Mhm.
Like, how do you balance the messaging between buy this and book us? And what has worked best to convert customers into
Again,
long-term
I would
staying?
also say neither. You lead with just providing value. So many people come to me and I'm like, I'm not selling you a service. Don't hire me for interior design. Ask me how to vet interior designers. Ask me the questions to ask to vet an interior designer. I'll give you the list. Ask me how much budget you should set aside. I'll give you the framework for how to think about it. And then you decide what you want to do. Lead with value first. Like we always say that, like obviously, like we're a retail channel and we like have sales and things, but like we always want to lead with like curation and like really an incredible like sort of lifestyle story first. And you fall in love with the lifestyle, you could come to us for design services and or you could come to us for product, and we could service you both ways, because we're not trying to get you to do one or the other. We're going to meet you where you are, depending on where you are in the funnel. But most importantly, like our job is just to educate first. Educate you first. Let's help lead with education. You'll find your way. I truly fundamentally believe that.
So it's really about it doesn't matter what products are out there, but it's that it is that education. But then in how do you focus on one business over another? Like
Mhm.
what helps you determine,
Sure.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that sounds like a really practical, like a tactical question.
yeah,
So obviously, like I think there's like your P&L is part of it, like figuring out sort of what your margin structure is and like what's
yeah,
your customer acquisition cost by channel. As it relates to product, we have a different margin there than we have on service side. Service
yeah,
side is harder to scale. The product is easier to scale. So there's challenges to each one. And there's no correct answer, right? It's entirely based on like your POV. And so like for us, our POV point of view is really design centric. And so for us to scale interior design makes sense for us. And so we definitely do like prioritize that over just buy this, buy this, buy this. You know what I mean? We're
yeah.
very much like, tell me about your whole home. Tell me about the room you're trying to work through. That's really more of our narrative if we had to pick a lane, but it's really driven by our point of view and what our brand identity is. And yes, it's a different margin profile and it's a favorable margin profile, but it's also not as easy to scale. So there's drawbacks.
And Kathy, on the interior design side, how do you vet clients? Like, how do you determine, because you have limited time, all
Sure.
of the individuals that are interior designers that are maybe following this have very limited
Right.
time, right? It's one
Yeah.
of the most important assets. How do you think about
Yeah.
clientele?
So many of our clients today are referral based, and so when they're referral based, they actually are pre-vetted in a lot of ways, right? Like they come
Yeah,
from somebody who we've worked on before, so that there's a lot of beauty built into that. The other piece is we have a two-step approach. So there's an online form you fill out, so that sort of eliminates folks who may not be the best fit for us, and then they actually get on completely complimentary design consultation with one of our design service leads. And that's also another round for vetting. The reality is, like, most folks, by the time that they find us, mainly because of our portfolio and our range of products that they sell, they're coming to us because they already like a sofa. They already like
Yeah.
some products. And so the business model in itself vets itself, if you will. Like, if we didn't have the product offering, it would be sort of like, well, I don't know what your budget is. But most of our customers come to us already hoping to purchase within our price point of goods. Right now, the folks who are looking to purchase $20,000 sofas are not coming to us. And so, like I said, it pre-vets it just based on how our business model is set up online.
Got it. I think that's helpful. And also just making sure you are known for that, right? Like
Mhm.
what price points do you want to fit into, what budgets, et cetera.
Totally. Totally.
And in terms of the tools and tech, we talked about AI, which is super helpful. What do you feel like, looking ahead, are some of the biggest opportunities for early stage founders in the home and design space over the next 2 to 3 years, or even 10 years?
Early stage, like how early?
Like they're just launching. Maybe they're an interior designer, or maybe they have a retail store,
Okay. Okay.
or they're trying to
Um,
figure out an interesting way. Like maybe they're even pre-launch, right? They want to get into the home space. They love the interior design, or they love home and interiors and architecture. Where do you think there are some really big opportunities?
let's see. I can't say I can't say like where the huge opportunities are, but I can say that the best way to think about it is I would deconstruct every single habit that you know today to be true. Like, really re-examine, like, how do we go to the gym? How do we, I have children who play video games with their friends online. Like, how does that future potentially change? How does education and higher education change? Like, how do any of the things that we've taken for granted for many, many years fundamentally change?
Yeah.
And how can we be part of that change and make it something that's better that every single human wants? I think that's like how to think about it. Um, Yuval Harari, I think that's his last name, wrote this book called Sapiens. I would highly recommend reading Sapiens to know where we're going. You kind of have to know where we came from. Like, why did the agricultural revolution happen? Why did the industrial revolution happen? Why does famine and war happen? And like, if you kind of deconstruct like how we humans fundamentally want to be, I think is like AI is going to commoditize everything. It's going to commoditize what we like. All technology is going to be commoditized. Like, how we shop is going to be entirely different. Like, just think about this. The role of AI is to create it to be absolutely personalized for you. There could be a world in which, Ali, I trade my AI model. I'll call him Mr. Goat, for example. Mr. Goat. Okay, I'm trying to save up for a summer house, and I need to save X amount of, hundreds of thousands for down payment. And if they knew this about me, they might, when I asked them to help me comparison shop, the latest jeans, my AI model might actually say to me, Kathy, you shouldn't be buying those jeans because you're over your budget this month, and you have a house savings goal. Like, my AI model may actually tell me to buy less things, not more things, right? Like where does the future of shopping go? Like, where does content live? How does content change? Like, all of these things. So I would say just really rethink like all the like. I mean, the perfect example is like a million years ago, Steve Jobs said we were going to put 1,000 songs in your pocket, and everyone was like, "You're crazy." And then the iPod came out, and then we know what happened afterwards. But like, just think about like, what is this massive tectonic step change that's going to happen with all of the industries we know today, and how can you do that to drive better for the people, to be better, if that makes sense.
And then last question for you, and that's, you mentor other founders. You're now in the North, so thank you very much for that. What is a piece of advice you would give a founder in year one, just in general, as they embark on their journey to building a business?
Number one is shamelessly ask questions. Ask questions, ask for advice, just ask. Don't be ashamed. Just don't be embarrassed. Like, if you don't know somebody, somebody has an answer. That's number one. Number two is just keep going. Just keep going. Like I always say that like happiness is like a direction, like success is a direction too. There's no such thing as like I've made it. Like that doesn't mean anything, right? Like I've met so many successful founders that have had crazy exits and they feel like they still haven't made it. Making it is a destination, is a direction. So just keep going and give yourself, like cheer yourself on, like create like happy little milestones in between and really celebrate them because that's what makes this process possible for the long haul.
It's so true. It's so true. I was actually on a call yesterday, internally, and I just turned to my co-founder and I was like, let's celebrate this for a second, because like it's a little milestone, but I'm really proud of us achieving it. And I think as the longer you're sort of in the entrepreneurial journey, you'll realize that there's not really one destination. And so you have to really take that time to celebrate yourself, and applaud yourself, because no one else is going to be clapping for you. Not
Yeah,
necessarily. Maybe your loved ones, but
yeah.
you have,
And only if they know what it is, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
and only if
They
you
don't
can figure it
understand the
out.
sort of impact of an achievement that maybe you had in your head, uh,
Yeah.
or a milestone. But I love that. It's been strategic, it's been tactical, it's been so informative, and it's no surprise that you've built the kind of company that you have with the
Mhm.
clearly the intelligence that you have, but also the savvy and the vulnerability that you've showed, to
Yeah.
this business. So really, really appreciate your time. So excited to have you on the North. Everybody, you can spend time with this woman. Like that kind of stuff. I just want to take a moment to talk about the impact of mentorship and getting to people that have achieved things like Kathy has. I think it's just so invaluable as a founder. So that's my parting words for you. Go book time with these people. It is worth the money 10 times over, to get a bit of their time and also be in their orbit. So thanks again, everybody. Remember, May 27th is our final day to sign up for our home cohort, where you'll have plenty of peer mentors and other people like Kathy coming in and guiding you through this crazy journey that is entrepreneurship.
Oh my
Have a
gosh.
wonderful day, everyone.
Thank
Kathy,
you
thank
so much for having me. And good
you.
luck to everyone. You can do it. You absolutely can.
You can.
All right.
Love you. Bye.